Humans are free, so free that we can even go against creation, against freedom, and in doing so, go against ourselves. What is more free than the ability to go against our own freedom, be our own enslavers, and oppress the freedom of the environment and ourselves? This can only be done through the freedom that comes with the will of human creation. How we wield that creation, or don't, is up to us. Our ability to wield creation is the force that determines the extent to which we are truly free. And how we wield it will determine how human life and life on earth itself will play out. Now, because I know humans will love to fight for their right to remain trapped, helpless, and ultimately not free, let's begin by looking at how freedom is determined in its simplest context. Free will is simply the ability to choose, but not all choices are equal in freedom, nor are your choices fully your own. Not in the sense that someone else is in control of your choices, but rather to the extent that you are not fully conscious over your own choices. To the extent that you are not fully exercising your full consciousness over your choices, you are not fully free, but enslaved to the level of freedom that that way of living offers. This lack of conscious participation in our lives stems from our unconscious and subconscious rising up and manifesting in a multitude of ways. A few overarching ways that this takes root is through beliefs that inhibit your will, or addictive tendencies that inhibit your full range of your will, or simply anything lying dormant within yourself that inhibits the full range of your conscious execution of your free will. We all find ourselves dealing with this in one form or the other, to one degree or the other. Although expanding our awareness over these things is the first step in regaining our will. To give you a better understanding of how choice, will, and freedom are all intertwined, here are a few examples of dissonant beliefs that inhibit our ability to choose, our will, and ultimately limit our freedom. The first example would be when one believes that they are powerless to a situation, a person, or really anything. They may say something like, I can't because X, Y, and Z. Hence, the saying, where there's a will, there's a way would be very appropriate here. Keyword being where there's a will, implying that there's always a way if you have the will to do so. If your will doesn't allow for the forces of X, Y, and Z to have more power over it to the extent that it inhibits it. Or another common example would be in relation to addiction. One may say, I can stop whenever I want to, I just don't want to. A belief so well rooted in its veiling, it manages somehow to be in alignment and contradictory to the nature of addiction and will at the same time, allowing the self-veiler to soothe their ego through recognizing their unexercised power, allows them to feel like they maintain hold of their power, and then denying it underneath the veil of, I just don't want to. It is such a perfect veil that its only tell is that if it were true, there would be no need for it in the first place. This just goes to show you the length and incredibility of our own self-deception. If only we would go to such lengths to exercise our own freedom. My point being is that to the extent that you are not truly fully choosing, you are not fully free, but enslaved to the limitations of your own veils that come in many forms, but ultimately deny and limit your range of freedom and leave you within the choice that lies within those veils. Our ability to choose correlates to our ability to choose what we create and how we choose to create. The collective and individual result of choice amounts to how free we are. As long as we exist here, we are inevitably creating our personal reality here, our life. And as long as we exist here, we exist in relation. So then we are also creating a collective reality in which our choices will affect the collective surroundings, the collective reality. Whether or not we actively participate in this process or not, shit still happens. Will be deemed to inaction, addictions, the default of whatever human society is offering at that given period in time, or any other result that comes from the lack of our fully conscious participation in life. Of course, we can choose to begin to overcome those factors, in which we begin to move into fuller consciousness, allowing us to more consciously choose, and in so be more free as a result of our way of living, in which we become free in our way of living through our way of living. Through this, we begin exercising free will. Free will is given to us, but we actually have to use that shit. So yes, we truly are free, but only to the extent that we use it, to the extent that we choose to exercise that freedom. Now allow me to explain before we start going out there mindlessly exercising our will over any and every moving thing. Well, a little late for that, but nonetheless. I hope the satire is clear there. But this comment made it clear, I hope. Anyways, you see, humans are more free than any other animal in the sense that we have the ability to create beyond procreation, create beyond having kids. Our ability to conjure up things in our own mind and bring them into reality extends our creative abilities far beyond any other animal here on Earth. We can use it to bear more walls than ever would naturally exist, or to propel those walls. We are endowed with more free will than anything else here through our creative will. And yet, that does not necessarily equate to more freedom. It equates to more creative freedom, but because of the nature of that creative freedom, we can actually wield it in a way that we end up far less free than we naturally ever would be. To wield creation in a way that oppresses ourselves, others, or the environment is to bear walls that restrict our freedom. Whether oppression is over ourselves, others, or the environment, it is all the same due to the holistic nature of reality. Oppression of any manner is ultimately to restrict the freedom of the same one whole that we are all a part of. It affects everyone and everything due to the connected, entangled nature of things. It inevitably loops back to us through us. To propel those boundaries is to actually respect those boundaries, taking into account the holistic nature of reality, in which we become free to create in a manner that pushes those boundaries. We do this through creating in an aligned way with nature, and so propelled by it rather than fighting against it. This is actually when we become free to extend our freedom beyond its natural limitations. Or else, creative will is really just creative destruction. And because humans' extended creative will has been utilized in this oppressive manner for some time now, humans have managed to end up far less free than any other animal through their own enslavement. No other animal is suffering the way the human animal is. This is mainly through either the denial of utilizing our own creative abilities, some form of self-oppression, or through utilizing a small portion of our creative abilities to fuel creative oppression and help create and maintain an oppressive force. And although, yes, we may have far more luxuries and comforts as a result of our creation, at what cost though? And at what point are we more addicted to them, more enslaved to those luxuries, than liberated by them? What do we endure to acquire them? At what point are we no longer enjoying them as much as we are addicted to them? While the rest of our life, family, and ultimately world suffers because of our addictions to acquiring, maintaining, and using those so-called luxuries sold off as progress. Now, I'm not against the luxuries and comforts of the modern world. I'm simply proposing some questions that we should seriously be asking ourselves and that I've been asking myself. Now, in order to really understand how we ended up so astray from our freedom, let's take a look at how every other animal and thing on earth functions in contrast with that of the human animal. Every other animal and aspect of earth lives and functions in a way that is in harmony with its environment. Even the sun, a ball of fucking fire, manages to exist in a way that is just right to heat the earth but not burn everything here on earth. The environment forms ecosystems that interact with one another as if it were one being, in the sense that everything exists in harmony with one another, as well as interconnected and dependent on one another. Dynamic equilibrium is found, in which fluctuation, change occurs, but ultimately in a balanced way, rather than a stagnant way of balance. The whole earth, all its inhabitants, the rocks, the trees, the water, and even the sun, exist in harmony with one another, in sync with one another, in alignment with everything, and all do so effortlessly. They just do it. Humans have strayed so far from the effortlessness of synchronicity that this is crazy, miraculous for us to even imagine. It is so foreign to us that we deem nature, life, a miracle. And yet, it is the natural state of things. Miracle is the natural state of the universe. It is simply us who are not in alignment with that miracle. And so we can barely even understand it. And so we deem it that it must be by some miraculous force. And it is by some miraculous force. A miraculous force that we too are a part of, but simply gone against for so long that we've lost touch with it. You see, humans have classifications, means of analyzing the earth and the environment, and they can be useful, but it is far more simple than we realize. We look at ecosystems to break it down into decomposers, predators, prey, and we see how each animal contributes its role to the dynamic found within the ecosystem. We see that each animal functions as if an organ, performing a specific role in the larger body of the ecosystem. Zooming out even further, we see that the whole earth, all its inhabitants, exist and play its role. It plays its role within a larger body, even the sun. But we miss the point. Nothing is going out of its way to make this happen. Each animal, non-animal, thing within nature and on earth knows exactly who it is, its role it plays, and plays that role. It wouldn't want it any other way. It is innate to them. If they were to play any other role than themselves, they would be harming themselves. To be out of alignment with themselves would result in a lack of alignment within the ecosystem and inevitably affect them as well. It would loop back around. It would make no sense. This illogical rationale is exactly the situation humans find themselves in. Now, undoubtedly, humans certainly are more complex than any other animal here on earth. Certainly, we have been endowed with, blessed with, something more to us for some reason. More spirit, possibly. And as I said earlier, it could be linked to our creative abilities, our ability to choose how and what we create beyond procreation. And yet, look at how we've managed it. With all that power, we find ourselves more lost than any other animal here on earth, maybe even in the cosmos. And it doesn't take a genius to recognize this. We're all feeling it, been feeling it, felt it at one point, even if we've grown numb to it. All that power, all the blessings endowed on us as a species, and look at us. The quote goes, with great power comes great responsibility. And look at how responsible we've been with our will, with our power. And ultimately, we suffer because of it and take everything else down with us. So, what does it come down to? Humans do not know themselves. Everything else can be classified and analyzed, but beyond all that, at its core, it's ever so clear that nature knows exactly who it is. Everything within nature, the rocks, the trees, the animals, they know exactly who they are, and they are that. Earth, Mother Nature, knows herself and is so in alignment with herself, and so in alignment with everything around her, with the rest of herself. By simply knowing who it is, being in alignment with itself, it is in alignment with the rest of it. Everything except us. We're the last to get on board. In fact, we're going the opposite fucking direction. Humans are out of alignment with themselves and so out of alignment with the rest of the world, with nature, the environment, and even amongst ourselves. We do not know ourselves, and so we do not see that we are the same. So we go against each other, against Earth, which inevitably is to go against ourselves. And the answer is more simple than we realize. Simply beginning to know ourselves and to move into alignment with that results in alignment with the rest of it all, with one another, with Earth, with nature, with all of it.